that the members of the Porthole to Justice and that are in my advocacy group can have access to that.
Well, I'm going to tell you that Ray and I, Clay is not my natural child. He's Rachel's son, but he's my godson, and I protect him as though he's my own, for sure. And he is not my child, but anybody who has a child, because I'm going to tell you, even though he's not my child, we have an agreement, Ray and I do, that establishes those relationships in law that say I have the power to act on his behalf in her absence. She has given me that right lawfully in very specific and even in an international aspect. She has given me that right. And I would highly suggest anybody who has a child should definitely have a will. They should definitely have a deed to their properties and estates, even to say that the whole estate goes to the child in totality. And they should set up. And this is funny because this is a Christian thing. You know, when I was born, I had a godparent. I was given a godparent upon birth. The duty of that godparent is if your parents are ill or die, the child is immediately given to that family to be cared for. No questions. It is a conveyance in biblical fashion. So I was given and ordained godparents who are there to, and my whole life, those godparents supplemented. They would send me money on my birthday more than others. Like I was literally like, they were like my second parents. And my sister and I had different godparents, and I was always so freaked out when I was growing up that when I was little that my parents were going to die, and she was going to go to my Aunt Rosemary, and I was going to go to my Aunt Laverne, and I was going to have to live away from my sister. Like that's what freaked me out. But I never questioned that I always had a place in the family to go, no matter what happened to my mom and dad. Even when my mom and dad were alive, I would call my aunt.
That's what I have in place for my son. You know, he has his godfather. His family is actually, they've embraced him. His entire family. Right. His godfather is Asian Indian. Ramesh, and and they are very tight knit people. Right. So we have that in place.
Yeah. And those people really are extensions of your organic self. I mean, they, and that it's the village concept. It's creepy that, that they coin Hillary Clinton with "it takes a village," because that's such a creepy concept coming out of her mouth. And she didn't coin it, of course.
And that's not the way that it was conceived with that in mind. That
right, exactly. but it is. I mean, and it has to do with extended family, and it's that organic. The whole of society. I perceive myself to be personally responsible for the health, welfare, and safety of every child in existence. That's me. I feel like it's my obligation as a sentient, enlightened being to ensure that the world that I'm in and society that I allow to exist and perpetuate protects children and is good for children. Because if we don't have that, then it's not good for anybody.
I became awakened to this when I gave birth to my first child.
Right.
And it's like, you know, as a mother, and I think every mother that's tuning in, they can relate to this. You breastfeed this child, and you have this child, you bring them, and I remember, it's kind of off the topic, but I remember standing in Toys R Us, and I had my son had just gone down, I breastfed, and he'd gone down to sleep, and I ran to Toys R Us to go pick up some baby wipes and some diapers, and I'm standing in line, and the child behind me starts crying. And
you start milking.
And I was like, what is this?
Well, and that tells you something, though. See, your body as a woman, and men, too, in their outward desire to protect everything, which is completely off the chain right now with their worrying about and destroying things for nothingness, in the wrong direction. Women are organically naturally imbibed with an instinctual desire to be mothers to the earth when they have achieved that knowledge. And your body responds in its instinctual, primal level to be able to satisfy any child in that construct of mothering. And that tells you what God intended right there.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be the guardians of all children.
Exactly.
Okay? All children. And as a society, that should be the primary goal of every society. And the biggest problem for me right now, and we've spoken about, the whole purpose of law, the only function of the only base function of true law, where all law, in my opinion, is derived from, is that concept. And because law's purpose is to protect the infant, the insane, the infirm, those of lesser.
And I think with the coup that you mentioned, and the corruption, the pendulum has swung so far off in the other direction.
They're eating them. That's who they are attacking. But in a way,
my concern is, Lotus. My concern is that there is a very real war on the family unit. There's a very real war on fathers. There's a war on separating the children from the mothers at birth. And
that's the Communist Manifesto, They're on the last leg. That's the last point of the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that as well. But, my concern is this, not only economically, but I don't think as a human race we can sustain this level of corruption and continue on. I think one more generation, we are literally as human beings one generation away from being extinct.
Well,
this continues.
We're always very short order from anything, to be honest with you. I mean, it's funny because I have a really good friend who I met in my 20s, and she's German, and she came here and she was very impressed with our social stability. I said, whoa. I said, the average American lives outside their means and is 2 paychecks away from homeless. And that was a fact in 1980. It's probably even 1 paycheck now. Okay. Mm-hmm. I said, we are financial slaves. It's the system of the state, or the status of the state. It eats people. And it's not supposed to. And the reason why is because you have this third party, this unknown. Okay. So, let's go back to what are foreign to ourselves.
Yeah.
So men in their organic state are one state of being. Okay. Mm-hmm. Men in their collective states, government, that's another state of being. And those two states are foreign to each other pursuant to our law. Under our law, state Ohio, so there's the state of me, mm-hmm. Lotus, my state of being. Then there's the state of men, just the collective, the ruminations of your neighborhood, the roar of the crowd at a game. That's the state of men, right? Then there are states of men that organize in a fashion to implement ideologies that'll make the world a better place, constructs of organized state where we actually elect people, have people talk to the collective at large, where we we give proxy votes to legislatures and senators and governors and all this stuff, and we give them our proxy to do our bidding for the betterment of our family, our culture, our children, ourselves. That's what the state is supposed to do. Then we have the corporate state, the state of whatever. Yeah. State of X, state of California, state of Oklahoma, not Oklahoma, the state, which is a territory.
And this is what is commonly referred to as the foreign faction.
Right. Well, it's a foreign faction because the people are hiding in the mask of state. See, once you get to states of men, corruptions can easily hide in a crowd. Okay, so you could have a crowd of 50 men, and there's only 3 dudes or 2. It only takes 2 to create a conspiracy. I mean, and you could have 2 bad apples. You could have 1 bad apple that makes 2 bad apples. It's the whole theory. Mm-hmm. But when you're in a crowd, okay, and it's called the color of law, what they're announced. So the mask of state, okay, so they're operating in this mask, and they have assigned themselves, and here's the law on this. If you are operating for the state and you are following the law, you are immune. If you are doing your ens legis duty, if you are following the Code of Federal Regulations as a Medicaid and Medicare claims rep, and you are following what's written by the legislature, there's no harm, no foul, okay? Mm-hmm. If you listen to your boss who tells you to do something outside of that legislative power and statute, then you are culpable as a man or woman for not only the financial but it's the crimes.
That's the crisis that we're facing right there, is the perversion that is occurring and the complicity. Right, because the attorneys, the corruption in the attorney bar unions are hiding those violations, and they are hiding unlawful activity of people who are operating under the color of law. And the really stupid part about that is there are specific laws for that exact act because they are seditious in nature, and violations of that nature tend to carry, well, they actually, Title 18, 241, and 242 is violations of substantial rights under the color of law. That's 241. 242 is conspiracy to violate someone's substantial rights under the color of law, meaning in the mask of the statutory corporate state. That's the mask of state, because you put a corporate mask on the functions of state. That's the mask, the persona, because we talked about that. Persona is capita. So your persona is your public capita. Our public persona for capita for the states of men are the states of in corporate fashion. They represent us in commerce. State of Ohio is a corporation that represents the state Ohio, the people in the republic, in their functions. You've really isolated the context of the whole entire problem that's occurring on such a massive scale. But you're not just talking about it, Lotus. You're not just on here talking about it and explaining it.
No, I'm actually doing. I'm trying to fix that. But I'm working, and this is what I want about Title 28. We don't want to lose Title 28. We don't want to lose, because, for all of the corruptions we're talking about in the attorneys, as we speak about this, the mask of state, there's bad people everywhere. There's good people and bad people in all walks of life. The unfortunate part about the way the state is, with the law being set aside, and my philosophical perspective of that is they let that happen to allow this beast of a machine to bring and create the law that brings us the capita. They have done, the attorneys have done exactly what they were supposed to do.
And I may sound like kind of, I learned from you, and I absorb everything that you say like a sponge, but I'm confused, because why do we have the judiciary creating laws and penal codes or putting these in, slipping them in? Why is this happening when they're not supposed to be legislating law? That's my understanding.
Right, no, they're supposed to follow the statutes. They're not supposed to, all they're supposed to do is say, does this statute agree with this organic greater construct of law? Has the statute that the state instruments brought forth, are they in compliance with the state constitution, the organic constitution, which is the organic law will of the people? Are the federal statutes in compliance with the organic common law, the federal common law? And you can't tell me that there's not federal common law, because the administrative agencies that create the policies for all of the attorneys and all of the bar unions speak of federal common law when it comes to diversified claims and foreign states. See, people they don't understand the law, and a lot of attorneys they don't know the law. They're not even required to be learned in the law. The Title 28, I think 506, I could find it specifically, but it says that no one's required to be learned in the law except for the Solicitor General. And what's funny is, what have I told you? I said the title of the current Solicitor General and all Solicitor Generals is what? Acting Solicitor General. And the reason why
it was like last December, I was, every show that I was doing, every time I went on the air, I was talking about SB 18, which was submitted to the Senate floor by a pediatrician, or Senator Pan, Dr. Pan, in California, and they have somehow slipped it in to where it's a statute, and this is precedence.
Okay, but this is what statutes are. Okay, and I just explained this to a man who's it's a hard concept for a lot of people. Statutes are instruments of bonds. The legislative branch creates the act, the executive branch puts it forth, and for every one of those statutes, the government is offering to bond an action, okay? The implementation of it. Because they're paying the states to comply. So, like Title IV, that statute creates a capacity to create money to fund it through